This lesson is on divisibility rules, which is probably the skill that students struggle with the most in 4th grade, as per my experience. They just get them all jumbled up in their head, and so the more they practice it and the more they think through it, the better off they'll be. So each number that we have listed, we're going to go ahead and list which numbers we're going to look for divisibility rules for. So we're going to list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10. If you noticed I skipped 7, it's because I don't have a trick for 7. Usually the other numbers will pick up the 7's fact, so I don't worry too much about 7. But we have tricks for all the other numbers, so that's what we list down the side of the page. So let's say we want to find all the factors for, let's say, 48. Alright, what I want them to do is get in the habit of writing the numbers and doing it one step at a time and thinking through what the divisibility rules are for each of these numbers. So for 48, we're always going to start with 1. Every number gets a 1. Every number in the world gets a 1. So we're going to think 1 times 48. That's the easy one. That's the one most of them get. And we check it off when we're done. Now for 2, we're going to look at the number and see if it's even. 48 is an even number because it ends in a 0, 2, 4, 6, or in this case 8. So it is an even number, so that tells me that something times 2 will give me 48. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 times something will give me 48. Now to figure out what times 2 will give me 48, all students have to do is half the number. Because both digits are even, I can half each of these numbers. What's half of 4? 2. What's half of 8? 4. So half of 48 is 24. So what times 2 would give me 48? 24. Pretty simple. Now we're going to skip the 3's fact and go to the 4's fact. Because my divisibility rule for 4 is, look at the 2's fact. 1, did it get a 2's fact? Yes. Is the 2's fact the other number? Is it even? Yes, it is in this case. So that tells me I can double the 2 and half the 12 to get my 4's fact. I can double the 2 to make 4, and I can half 24 to get what times 4 would give me 48. So we're going to half 24 the same way we halved 48. What's half of 2? 1. What's half of 4? 2. So 4 times 12 will give me 48. So if it doesn't get a 2's fact, if it's not divisible by 2, then it's not going to ever be divisible by 4. So it has to have a 2's fact, and the 2's fact has to be even so that we can double and half. Now we're going to do it again for my 8's rule. Look at the number and see, did it get a 4? Yes. Is the other number we multiplied times 4 even? Yes. So we know it's going to get an 8. It's going to be divisible by 8. So we double the 4 to make 8, and we're going to half 12 to get my other number. Now they should know, they shouldn't have to slash through for this one. They should know what half of 12 is. Half of 12 is 6, so 8 times 6. We doubled the 4 to make 8 and half the 12 to make 6. I hope that makes sense. So if it doesn't get a 2, it doesn't get a 4. If it doesn't get a 4, it doesn't get an 8. So that's why they go through that progression. They go from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, and 4 to 8. Now we're going to go back and do the next easiest, which is the 5's. Does it get a 5? Is it divisible by 5? This case is no, because for it to be divisible by 5, it has to end in a 5 or a 0. And in this case, it doesn't. So we're going to check it off. Now we're going to go to the next one, which is 10. Is it divisible by 10? Well, we know that if it ends in a 0. And in this case, it does not. So it is not divisible by 10, and we can check it off. Now we go back and do the 3 hardest ones. 3, 6, and 9. These are the ones that students always get to and their faces drop because they just can't remember this divisibility rule. For the 3, to see if it gets a 3 or if it's divisible by 3, all you have to do is add the 2 digits together and get what I call a magic number. 4 plus 8 is 12. So 12 is my number that I'm going to look at. For it to be divisible by 3, this number, 12, has to be a multiple of 3. Our multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So 12 is a multiple of 3. So that tells me that 48 is divisible by 3. So something times 3 will give me 48. And to figure out what that something is, they can divide. 48 divided by 3. What times 3 will give me 4? 1. Subtract. What times 3 would give me 18? 6. So what times 3 would give me 48? 16. Now for my 6 rule. Did it get a 3? Yes. Is the 3's number even? Yes. So that means I can double the 3 to make 6 and half 16 to get my other number. So what's half of 16? They should know this. 8. So what times 6 would give me 48? 8. Now we've already got that same fact listed twice, and that's okay. Now we're going to look at the 9s. This is when we go back to the magic number. 12. Is 12 a multiple of 9? 12 is not a multiple of 9 because our multiples of 9 are 9, 18. So 12 is not a multiple of 9, so we're going to check it off. So now I have all of my factors listed for 48. So this tells me all the numbers that 48 is divisible by. Divisible means that I can take 48 and divide by 1. I can divide it by 4 or 2 or 6 or 8 or 3, and I will get an even, solid answer with no remainders. So what they would end up doing is listing their factors 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 16, 24, and 48. All the factors for 48. So 48 is divisible by all these numbers. Let's do one more. And you can see why it's so hard. It's just a lot of information for the students to process. So we practice it all year long. So I'm hoping this helps. Let's do one more. Let's say this time we want to do 90. All the divisibility rules to figure out what 90 is divisible by. So first we list our numbers down the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10. And we go through them one at a time. Alright, we'll start with 1. Does 90 get a 1? Yes, because every number gets a 1. So 1 times 90. For the 2, look at 90. Is it even? Yes, it is, because it ends in a 0. So that tells me something times 2 would give me 90. So 2 times something. We just need to figure out the something. To figure out what times 2 would give me 90, we need to half 90. Now 90 is a bit harder to half because 9 is not an even number. So we need to make it an even number. Here's how we do that. We think about borrowing. We take one from a friend, move one over, keep the 0. Now we can half these two numbers to get what times 2 would give me 90. What's half of 8? 4. What's half of 10? 5. So half of 90 is 45. So 2 times 45 would give me 90. So I can check off my 2's fact. Now we go to the 4's fact. We look back at the 2 and look at the number we multiplied by. 45. Is 45 an even number? No. So does anything times 4 give me 90? No, because I can't double and I can't half because 45 is not an even number. So I can check that off. If it doesn't get a 4, it's also not going to get an 8. I can automatically know that, so I can check it off. Remember, if it doesn't get a 2, it doesn't get a 4. If it doesn't get a 4, it doesn't get an 8. Now let's go to the 5's divisibility rule. Is it divisible by 5? Yes, it is, because it ends in a 5 or 0. So we're going to think 5 times something gives me 90. To figure out the something, you can divide. 90 divided by 5 will give me my answer. What times 5 would get me to 9 without going over? 1. Subtract and move it to the next box. What times 5 would get me to 40? 8. 8 times 5 is 40. So 18 times 5 would give me 90. Now we look at my 10. Is it divisible by 10? Yes, because it ends in a 0. So 10 times something would give me 90. Now most students would be able to know what times 10 gives me 99. But if they need to, they can count up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Alright, the next one is the tricky one. 3s. They need to add the digits and get their magic number. 9 plus 0 is 9. Now, they look at their magic number and see, is it a multiple of 3? 3, 6, 9. Yes, 9 is a multiple of 3. So I know something times 3 would give me 90. To figure out the something, we divide. 90 divided by 3. What times 3 gives me 9? 3. What times 3 gives me 0? 0. So what times 3 gives me 90? 30. Now we can look for the 6 divisibility rule. Does it get a 6? Well, did it get a 3 first? That's the first question. Yes, it got a 3. Is the number I multiplied 3 by even? Yes. So that tells me I can double the 3 to make 6 and half 30 to get my other number. To half 30, we're going to use this trick that we used up here because we can't have 3. So we're going to take one from a friend, move one over, keep the 0. Now I can half these two numbers. Half of 2 is 1. Half of 10 is 5. So 6 times 15. And I can check it off. Now we can do our 9s. Our 9 is also a magic number divisibility rule. So we're going to look at our magic number and say, is it a multiple of 9? 9, 18, 27. So yes, 9 is a multiple of 9. So something times 9 will give me 90. 9 times, and then they should know 9 times 10. Plus it's already listed up here. So my divisibility rules tell me which are my factors, and my factors tell me what the number is divisible by. So this number, 90, is divisible by 1, 2, 5, 10, 3, 6, 15, 30, 18, 45, and 90. I hope this helps. I've also listed the divisibility rules if you need to print that off so that your students can have that copy of those notes of what they need to think for each divisibility rule. I know it's tricky, but the more they practice and the more they go through those steps, the easier it'll be. Thanks so much.